to everyone that's watching the webinar. I think it's just starting to record now, so good morning again. Today we're actually talking about patterns and the chaos theory. You know what? I really enjoy the fact that I've got lighting now. However, I don't like that ring that comes up, and because it's always in my glasses. But anyway, let's go forward and we'll move through this process. So today we're going to be talking about patterns. This is sort of one of my favorite subjects, because I tend to I'm not going to do that. I tend to like looking at patterns. I tend to like observing things. I'm a Virgo, and Virgos tend to be analytical. And so I actually enjoy looking at the patterns that happen in life, whether that be to me or whether that be to the environment, society, the world. We are all stuck in patterns, right? Or where they say we're creatures of habit. And so when you look at a cell, you know, when I started becoming a spiritual being, or being aware that I was a spiritual being, I had no idea what I was doing. And even before that, I think I used to do the same. I used to look at two things to see what was right in the world, like how should I behave? Not at humans, because humans tend to have their own weird patterns and procedures that aren't necessarily the right way to go about things. But I used to look at cells. What does a cell do in this particular situation? Or I would look at a lioness or nature, and an animal in nature, right? Good morning, Raya. How are you? And so I would actually work through the process by discovering what a cell does or what nature does, right? So before we go any further, for those that I have never had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Elizabeth Eleanor, and I have been on a spiritual path for, I say 18 years, but that could be longer. It could be 20 years. I know that when I, you know, when you're unconsciously aware of things. So when I was very, very young, I sort of knew only a few things, just a few things that I sort of understood and knew. But one of them was that my dad was going to die, right? And I didn't know how I knew. I just would cry with him of a night time, please don't die on me. And I had no idea, like we were both weird about, like, he'd say, I'm not going to die, you know. Well, anyway, he died when I was 15, and somehow I sort of knew about it. So you can be on a path or shining your light without even being aware of it, right? And so I went on a path, pretty destructive path, for 10 years after my dad died. He was my world. And that actually was the process to discover my spirituality and my journey on my conscious awareness rather than spirituality. If you've got a problem with labels, and we'll talk about that today, then it's just conscious awareness, being aware of what you're creating in your reality and what you choose to create in your reality, what's out there, and deciding what you want to have in the future for your future reality, right? So I was a remedial massage therapist for 20 years. I've got two beautiful children, been married, been divorced, had some crazy times in my life, like most people, lots and lots of pain as I was discovering myself in my 20s. Found myself with two little kids, working out what on earth, how did I, you know, do this? How do I do this? Because I didn't want to live in Sydney, so I moved up to Far North Queensland, where I didn't know anyone except for my alcoholic partner, and that was quite challenging. And so an introvert who didn't know how to communicate with people. And so I found myself in a pattern. I found myself in this place where I didn't want to, I was very shy. I didn't want to communicate with people. And yet I also have this natural introvert inside me as well, extrovert, that actually needs people every so often. And so I had to push through the patterns that I'd created and the habits that I'd created. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. And that's what life is all about, right? Is being aware of what's going on in your world. Is it something that you choose? Is it something you want? And if it's not, then what are you going to do about it? Because only you can make that decision. So I went on a pretty crazy wild ride, about 18 years from learning that I could actually feel energy. That's how it sort of started. Well, at the same time, I, discovered that I could see and experience energy at the same time. And through that process, discovered that my first language is vibration and energy. And I would actually like to say that I reckon most people are the same. And so this self-discovery of how do you work through this process of learning more about yourself and learning more about the environment you're in and learning what you want. And I actually just woke up this morning and thought about the fact that I'm in a position at the moment where I don't have any children hanging off me anymore. I'm in a place where I'm moving into what they call the third age. I'm just discovering that I think I'm moving into menopause, even though I haven't got any physical symptoms or signs yet. And this morning I was really thinking about, well, what is it? I could be on the planet for another 50 years, right? So what is it that I want and what am I going to do about it? So through the process of discovering or thinking about patterns, I was aware of my own patterns of thought, because our patterns of thought can get us stuck. So we're going to talk about that more. So if you're on the Facebook Live and you can't see the slides, then jump on to any of my pages and you'll see that you can actually register for the webinar. And so then you'll be able to actually come on and you'll be able to see what the slides are. And I'm just wondering if anyone is on here saying hello. I think we've got some people in the chat. Good morning, Christine. Lovely to have you here. There's most probably more people on there. I'm using it as a webinar and I'm getting used to it. So what are patterns and labels? So patterns and labels are things, they can be positive or negative. They can be actually a conscious thing that you've created or an unconscious thing that you've just got yourself stuck in, right? Depending on what they are, they can be very destructive or they can be productive, and they can be created by your mind or guided by your inner being. And so patterns are something that's constant. It's a constant cycle. Einstein actually spoke about insanity being something that is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But that is a pattern, right? You get stuck in this pattern. You think that you're doing the right thing and you go over and over and over again doing the same thing. And sometimes you're unconscious of it. We all are in patterns. We wake up every morning, we get out of bed, potentially on the same side of the bed. We have this pattern that we do. I know that every morning I wake up and I turn on the kettle and I make myself a lemon water. That's a pattern that I've created, and I've created it over 25 years now. And so, actually maybe longer than that. We have a shower. We most probably use the soap or brush our teeth exactly the same way over and over and over again. And so there's this pattern that we are in, and some of them are good patterns because we want to brush our teeth, right? And some of them can be very destructive patterns. If you don't make your bed or you don't clean up after yourself, then you walk back into the kitchen and it's a mess, right? And so that actually changes your vibration, because then you're looking at things unconsciously that are causing problems within your psyche as to whether you are in a clean environment or a negative environment. So patterns can be, are a cycle, something that's cycling over and over again. And labels are the same. Labels are, well, labels we'll talk about a little bit more, but labels are something that is an identification of something. And I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. So what are the benefits of patterns and labels? So a pattern that I found myself doing, and this is just to show you patterns. I want you to be aware all day of what patterns you're in. One of my patterns that I've got stuck in is having a cup of tea while I'm on the webinar. And so you can get stuck in patterns, right? But the benefits of patterns are that they can be something positive, like waking up and having lemon water every morning. Creating an environment that is conducive to success is a really good pattern. Knowing how to drive safely in your world is a really good pattern, right? So let me know in the comments below, what is a pattern that you know that is very beneficial to you, right? The same with labels. Now, I've got my own thing about labels, and one of them is that I think that labels are good and bad, because society tends to want to label everything, absolutely everything. You look at the medical world, and you know, when my brother was, so he's in his 50s now, and he was a really outgoing, crazy kid, always into everything. Now, these days, they would say he would have had ADHD. Before that, it was just ADD. Before that, it was hyperactivity. So all of a sudden, you've got this label, and you get stuck in that label. And so one of the things about labels is that they're really, really good to identify something about yourself. However, then they're really good to release. So when something's going on, one of the reasons that I know that I'm potentially going through the third age is that I have these things, like a dry side of my eyes. My eyes are getting dry on the side of my eyes. And something else that I noticed as well was happening. And my naturopath that I've been seeing said, oh, that's his first sign of menopause, because everything starts drying up because of the way the hormones work, right? So, and I remember when I found out that I had a 15-centimeter fibroid, right? So that's a label. I've got this huge uterine tumor, benign, but it's still a tumor inside my womb. I've got these dry eyes. They're a label. They go, okay, this is an identification of something. Now that I've got that identification, I'm going to let go, because sometimes the identification is really good, because then you can then work with it. But once you've got that identification, in my opinion, it's really good to release it. Because when you release it, you have more ability to work on creating a new reality. So when I discovered that I had a 15-centimeter fibroid, I went, okay, there's something going on in my body. Let go of that. What can I do to support my body? Because my body can heal itself. And so what did I do in that process? I started doing things to release toxins out of my body, and I looked over my whole body and started working on my whole body. Through that process, I actually got rid of the fibroid naturally. all the doctors, I did end up in hospital at one stage, but all of the doctors couldn't work out why I was, or how I was doing it, because it's unusual to get rid of a fibroid that way. And it was because I was looking at my body, my mental state, and my spiritual state. How did I create it? What's going on in my mind to create it? And what am I doing with my body, and clearing my body to release that out of my body? So once you've found yourself in a label, instead of holding on, this is what I've got, or this is who I am, let go of it. Go, okay, this is who I am, or this is what I've got happening with me, or this is what I can see. Now let go of it, because when you hold on to it, you can actually find that you're stuck in that label. So patterns and labels, they become very familiar, and you tend to keep doing them. So if you've got a pattern that's a really successful pattern, keep doing it. You'll become familiar with it. Make it a habit. Be positive about it. Be aware that it's something that's working for you, and keep your momentum going, so that it then becomes second nature and you don't have to think about it anymore. The cost of patterns and labels, there is a cost depending on what it is. So if you get stuck in a pattern, like having a cup of tea while you're supposed to be talking to everyone, be aware that you're in that habit or that pattern, or that you're stuck in a label. As soon as you start, identifying something as this, then you're holding it stagnant. You're stopping the growth, and that, depending on what it is, can atrophy. So when you're caught in a habit that you know is not good for you, then when you label it and say, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am, I'm an introvert, I'm an extrovert, I'm shy, I'm angry all the time, that's just who I am, I'm a narcissist, I'm this, I'm that. When you identify with something, you are stopping the growth and not allowing yourself to move out of that, or the other person. I remember once when I was living up in the country, and there were some teenagers that used to hang out with the young kid he was my brother-in-law. And I remember them complaining about someone because, last week he was saying blah, 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 and this week he's saying blah, 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 blah. And I picked them up on it, and I said, it's not that he, it might not be, because I didn't really know the guy, it might not be that he is all over the shop. It might be that he has changed his mind from that point. He may have been this back then last week, and he's had a whole week of realizations and development and intuition and growth and understanding, and he's changed his mind and he's moving forward. When we keep ourselves in patterns, when we keep ourselves labeled as something, I'm in menopause. Like, holy crap, is that a full-on one or what? I'm having menopause, or I am OCD, or I am, I am all of the things that I said before. There's so many labels out there, right? When you say I am that, all of a sudden you're stuck in that. So you want to change that to I am growth, I am expansion, I am love. Get stuck in those patterns instead, right? So patterns can be rules and requirements from outside of yourself, and they hinder your moment-by-moment experience of self-love. So be aware of the patterns that you can get caught in, because often they're expectations or the rules and requirements that you've got caught up in society, because society's got lots of conditions. We were born into a conditional world, and so we can be in patterns and labels that we're not even aware we're in. I call it tribal knowledge. when you get stuck in things. You know, when we were being brought up, even if you were brought up in a beautiful environment, at one time or another, and most probably more like 80% of the time, you were told, don't touch that, don't do this, sit at the table, blah, 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 you know, like, no, you got to listen to me because I said blah, 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 right? All of those things are actually pushing into our psyche, don't listen to yourself. You don't know, listen outside of yourself instead. And so even when we're in this beautiful environment, when we're being loved and supported by beautiful parents, we were unconsciously conditioned not to listen to ourselves and our intuition and to our higher source. And so by moment, is breaking through those patterns and being more and more aware of your own experience of yourself. And what does that really mean? So one of the things about patterns is that when you get stuck in one pattern, so going into, I want to talk a little bit about chaos theory. Now, my interpretation of chaos theory is very different. You can look up chaos theory on the internet, right? And it's a mathematical equation. If you've ever heard of the butterfly effect, you'll know what I'm talking about. They say that, you know, the butterfly flapping its wing in one part of the world can create a hurricane on the other side of the world, right? Hurricane, cyclone, whatever it is. And so my understanding of, because my mind always develops new things, right? And so my understanding of chaos theory is that you can get stuck into a pattern, and when you're in growth, you're actually moving from one pattern into another on a spiritual or vibrational level, right? So we are in the moment, as a society, we are moving from one vibration into a new vibration. And in between that is COVID. Because what in between one pattern and another pattern is chaos. Now, let me explain. Chaos is when vibration or particles are in a certain behavior, and they know each other, and they're in a cycle. Everything has a form and a tone to it. So when it moves from one pattern into a new pattern, the particles actually have to recalibrate and work out, oh, this one has to go over here and this one goes over here. And so when you look at the middle of it and what's going on in the middle, you could go, oh my gosh, that's chaos. However, in chaos, because there is a divine order, there is a divine source that knows exactly what's going on all of the time. And that's so funny to say because time is only relevant to us here. Those particles are all organizing themselves into the new pattern. So I don't know what to look up, but in YouTube there is actually I've seen it before, but there is a basic one in YouTube where they put sand on a drum, right? And they put the tone into the drum skin. They put the tone of, say, A, for example. So what's this? This chaos between patterns can be on an individual, society, and global level. Absolutely, Joe. Good morning. Good morning. Absolutely, it's all levels and so intricate, right? So they've got, so they put a tone of A into the drum, and they've got sand on top of the drum skin, and so that sand shapes this beautiful pattern like a sacred geometry or a snowflake type pattern. And just like remember the old radio dials when you used to change the radio from 97 point whatever, 97.1 to 97.9, and you could hear the radio, and then you'd slowly move it, and then it'd distort, and then all of a sudden a new one would come. It's a similar thing to that. So they would say they've got A, the tone of A, and then they were moving the dial to the tone of B. So that's one tone into a new tone, or one pattern into a new pattern. And so as they change that dial, the beautiful formation of the sacred geometry would all of a sudden, the sand would just go absolutely crazy, and it would look like just sand vibrating on the top of a drum. But what was happening was that chaos was moving things around and creating a new order. And so as it got to the tone of B, all of a sudden, all of that chaos would go zip, and next thing there'd be a brand new pattern, this brand new behavior, this brand new set of geometry or sacred divine order. And so we are doing that. We can be doing that, as Joe was saying, we could be doing that as an individual and moving towards growth. And so in times of going from one pattern into another pattern, if you find yourself in this place where you're feeling like your life's chaotic, things aren't going well for you, you know, you can't find the order in anything, be aware that maybe you're moving into a new pattern. And the same with what's going on. Oh, excellent, Joe. Thank you so much for putting the YouTube on so everyone can look at it. So if you're on the webinar, after this, jump on to the Spiritual Warrior, Elizabeth Eleanor, the Spiritual Warrior, because Joe put the YouTube up. I have seen it, and maybe I'll share that with you, Joe. I can't remember. And so when we are doing that individually, and we are doing it as a society, and we're doing it globally as well. So here we are in the middle of a massive pattern change, pattern vibrational change, because we're in the middle of what they're calling the great pause. So here we are, our society knew how it was functioning, even though there was chaos within that, it was functioning in a particular pattern, and then bam, all of a sudden everything completely shifted, and there's a massive chaos because we're moving into something different. What we're moving into is theoretical, and the same with when you're moving into a new pattern as an individual. How it looks on the other side of that is up to your interpretation and your perception. It's only afterwards that you can reflect and go, I can see that was chaos, and this is a new pattern, and I've moved into it now, and I'm moving again. So be aware that you may find yourself, like, this is where labels are good, right? Because when you're in chaos, you can get disrupted when you're going, what's going on? I don't know what's happening. I'm going under, or I'm finding this really difficult, or, you know, you're starting to make assessments. But when you can go, wait a minute, I'm in chaos, that means I'm moving into a new vibration. That's a label that's really good for you, right? It's a label that will relieve you and bring comfort in the moment, so that you know that you haven't lost control of your world, right? So where are you at the moment? Are you caught in a pattern that actually isn't serving you? Or are you stuck in patterns that you're not even aware of? Because sometimes we're caught in patterns that we're not even aware of. Have you labeled yourself as something? Have you labeled a health condition or a particular habit of yours that this is who I am? And when you say that, like all of a sudden, there's no change involved. Are you in the chaos between the patterns? Where are you? Just think about it. If you want to think about it all week, However, I invite you to at least today, think about the patterns and the labels that you have unconsciously put onto yourself, or that you might be in, or whether you're finding yourself in a place of chaos, and that means that you're moving into a new place. So be aware of those things. Hey, Diane, I think in all of them, in different parts of my life. And absolutely, that can totally be the way, and especially, you know, because of the way we are all in this place with COVID, we can find ourselves in our own personal chaos, our own personal labeling system and patterns, and getting out of that is, the chaos is driving me a bit crazy. I get it. Hey, Diane, if you want to have, I'm just going to, if you want to stay connected, for those that are on the webinar, click on the QR code and it will take you into Elizabeth Allen or the Spiritual Warrior. So then you can see what's going on. And Women of Light is another one that you can check out. And I'm just seeing this, and that's one pattern I want to get out of. Well, Diane, if you're interested, I do complimentary 30-minute consciousness discussions or chats. So if you want to put yes, please, they're free. I only do a certain amount every month. I think there's a couple left this month. Maybe not. And good morning, Irene. If you would like to find out more about that, just put yes, please in the comments, and then we can get in contact with you. Excellent, Diane. I'll get in contact with you. Sorry, someone just rang me. So if you're interested in having a chat, just put yes, please. Diane will get in contact with you about that. And if you're on the Facebook Live, then just let me know and I can get in contact with you as well. For those that are new to this, I have started, I'm looking at doing a half-day workshop coming up on the 15th of August called Listen to Your Inner Voice. Now, if you're in chaos or you found yourself in a pattern or you've labelled yourself with something, then listening to your inner voice will support you through. I'm not saying you won't ever have those experiences, but listening to your inner voice and being aware of what's going on is so imperative to your spiritual growth. And what's going on with us at the moment is that we're moving into a higher realm, into a deeper level of spirituality, as we're moving from the old pattern of society where people are not considering themselves or others, and we need to break free from that. And the way we're treating others, the way we're treating our environment, the way we're treating our world, we're breaking free from that. Hallelujah that we chose. I just want to honour every single person that's on the planet, that somehow we actually chose this to be in our world, believe it or not. So we chose to be here in this big moment in time. You know, when I was, good morning, Shamela. When I was little, one of the things, you know, we're just talking about labels and habits and patterns and not being conscious. When I was younger, I think I must have been 7, and I went past the TV and they were showing a replay of Woodstock. And I remember thinking, oh no, I've come down too late. And the next thought was, come down from where and too late for what? Like, it was like, what on earth was I talking about? And as I got, you know, 2012 happened, and prior to that, like having this awareness that there was going to be this spiritual change and this growth. And, you know, in 2012, we thought the world was going to end and all that sort of stuff, right? However, I knew back then that I was here for some reason, that I was here to change something or to be part of a massive shift in society and the world. And I think we're actually in it now, guys. So everyone that's here on the planet is actually part of this massive journey. We chose to do this. And so I honor everyone that's here, that you're here and we're doing it together. I'll just read this. Everyone who said, I want the world to stop so I can catch up, and we got COVID chaos. I've had that thought about music too. Yeah, so true, Diane. We were all saying it. The world's got to change. The world's got to change, and now it's changing. We go, okay. We created this reality. We created this as well. We created for the things to shift. Whether this is the dichotomy of everything, right? Because whether we were consciously aware, unconsciously aware that it was going to shift, and we were tuning into that, or whether we were the ones creating it, because you never know which one. Like, you can do your head in thinking of those things, right? So if you're interested in joining the half-day workshop that's on the 15th of August, please comment below workshop and we will send you the details for that as well. Have an awesome, awesome day. For those that are on here, thank you for watching. I'm going to say goodbye right now. Take care, and I'll see you next Monday. And for those on the webinar, thank you so much for watching as well. I will get on to you and send you some links, Diane. And I'm just seeing, I've got to open the funny thing. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week. Same to you guys. Take care, and I will catch you. Wait a minute, I've got to stop sharing. And I will catch you next week.